G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, I did that metal plate, fixed the mod in the last video to stop the crap going down, getting into the back of the gear drive and keep a lot of it off the lead screw. That's a handy little mod. You know, I could extend it out further maybe if I want to, but that'll do for now. The next thing is the levers. It's got these metal levers for the lockdown for the spindle and the four-way. The cam lock lever is actually quite a good length. That's not bad to use. I'll leave that as it is. I think it's okay. I did extend it on my CQ9325 because that was only a short little lever, but that one's reasonable. But what I want to do for now is this one here. It's definitely too short. You know, when you're pulling down, you've got nothing to pull on. You're only pulling down with sort of one finger. And so what I'm going to do with that, I mean, there's several ways you could approach this, but I'm just going to simply thread this section here on the end, you know, from the taper back. That's 7/16. I'll go 7/16 UNC, and then just get a bit of aluminium or even steel tubing and just drill it and tap it and thread it on. I've got this Loctited into this. I Loctited all of these fittings when I put them in. Same for the down here as well. You don't want them coming loose. So that's the easy fix. So rather than make a whole new shaft, just thread what you got and just go with that. It'll be stronger actually than the shaft, I think, because that's flaring out. So yeah, we'll go with that. Here's what we'll be using. It's just my El Cheapo tap and die set, made in Japan though, which I bought like when I was in my 20s, you know, so I've had it for 50 years nearly, and it's been good. But as you can see, you know, most of the carbon steel taps have broken. I've replaced with high-speed steel as they get snapped. I've got a whole lot of other high-speed steel taps and dies, but I don't actually have a high-speed steel tap in 7/16, so I'll just use the carbon steel one. Looks like it hasn't hardly been used, and I'll just use the carbon steel die. Well, actually, they look more like high-speed steel, don't they? I reckon they are. Yeah, I reckon they're high-speed steel, and just the taps are carbon steel, because I haven't broken any of these. They've lasted well. Yeah, all right. We'll go with those. This is a holder I made up for it, because you get these epoxy little holders. They're hopeless, really. You know, they've got nothing to hang on to, dig in your fingers. So I made this big mother up years ago. So it's pretty rough. Just made up out of some scrap, and I can stick the little dies in and get good purchase. Because the trouble with these sort of dies is they're not very deep. They're very shallow, so the lead-in angle is very severe. A thicker die is much better because they make it more gradual. So they'll start a lot easier than these. These are, yeah, they're hard to get going. You've got to really push on them. So you need something heavy like this to get a good purchase. Or you can do it in the lathe and then use the tailstock and drive it up. But I'm just going to mount this in the vices. I've already Loctited this in, and I don't want to heat it up to get the Loctite off, otherwise I'll destroy the bluing, so well, the metal finish. So I'll just hold it with some aluminium jaws and just tap it by hand. That'll be good enough. Let's get on with it. Now, when you clamp stuff in the vise and you don't want to mark it, make yourself up some aluminium jaws, or tin jaws are good as well. You can use angle iron or whatever. I just cast these up myself, but aluminium angle iron would be fine. Also, when you clamp stuff in your vise, always clamp it as close to the centre as possible. If you clamp out near the edges here, you're going to twist the jaws and you've got a good chance of cracking the vise. Clamp it in the middle and the vise will last a lot longer, and you know, you've got a lot less chance of doing any damage to it. But yeah, clamping out here is okay, but don't go too hard on it. Otherwise, yeah, you can put a lot of leverage on the jaws and crack it somewhere. Okay, we'll do this. Put a bit of lube on, and then we'll tap it. I suppose I should have really grind it. I'll grind the end on a bit of a taper so it'll start easy. Alright, we'll do that first and come back. That steel's actually pretty hard. I hope we can tap it alright. I think we will, but it is, yeah, it's not not soft mild steel. It's quite good. Hope we can do this. This is really hard stuff. I might have to change plan here. Oh, we might be getting that. This isn't going to work. Okay, no thread. That's not going to work. No problem. What I'll do is I'll machine up a piece of aluminium or something, you know, like that, to the exact specification. Use a little boring bar on it. Cut it to length, and machine it to size. We'll just Loctite it on. The Loctite will hold that, no problem at all, and it shouldn't be coming off. So we'll give up on the tapping. It's just too hard. It's super hard, actually. All right, I'll yeah. All right, well, I'll machine up this, and yeah, that'll work all right. No problem. Right, this is the aluminium I'm going to use. It's not actually home cast, it's some that Alan from Retro Steam Tech sent me a while back. So I'll use that. It's just a nice diameter. You only got to just sort of have it this length. I face the end, it's centre drilled, so I'm going to drill it and bore it. But before I do that, I'm going to run the shear tool up it and get a nice finish on it. Now you could knurl that, but I'm not going to knurl it because it's not a good idea to knurl anything that you're pulling on. The knurls will dig into your fingers. The best finish to have is just a plain smooth one. So we'll go with that. So I'll just get the shear tool into action. That'll bring it up just beautiful. And then I'll get on and centre drill the end of it in far enough to accommodate the existing little handle. And then I'll do it undersized, and then I'll use a boring bar to bring it out right to the specification we want. And then I'll just Loctite it in, part it off, and then clean it up and Loctite it in together. Probably round the edges off a little bit, break the edges a bit, but probably just do that on the linisher. Okay, we'll get on with the shear tool, show you how good that is. Now with shear tools, as you're not putting a lot of load on the job, they're only just kissing it really. You can have as much overhang as you want. You can see I've got quite a bit of overhang there, and I've done that deliberately so I can clear the live centre. So, you know, don't be afraid to have overhang on your shear tool. It won't matter. Right, now I've measured the shaft, it's 11.18. You could use an 11mm drill, but there's no guarantee you won't go over. That drill's only going to be slightly off, you know, bent or not cut correctly, and it can go bigger. So I'm going to use a 10.5, okay? And that should be okay, hopefully. And then I'll just use a boring bar just to bring it up gradually and do a test fit all the way and get it as snug as I can. And then the Loctite will definitely grip it on that amount of centre. So let's do it. Now I'm using a collet chuck to grip the drill once again, because they won't tear up the shanks on your drills. Your drills will stay accurate. So collet chuck's the way to go. I'm going to drill in up to the edge of the cutting angle, and then I'm going to reposition it use the scale on the quill to go in 20 mil. I'll actually go on a little bit further. It's not going to matter. I'll make it, say, 25 mil, I think, even though the bit we want to grip is only 20. The danger with doing a snug fit is that you're going to get an airlock when you push the handle in. It may not let the air come out, so you might have trouble. If that does happen, I mean, you want a snug fit, obviously, but if that does happen, well then once I've parted it off, after I've drilled it, I'll then drill a fine gallery in through the end so that you can then push in the handle and let any air escape. So we'll see if we have to do that or not. With a bit of luck, we won't. But yeah, you can get a very good, very snug fit, and it can make things a bit tricky trying to use Loctite. So we'll do it now. These are those cobalt drills from Banggood. They're very well ground, razor sharp. Okay, that's 25 mil in, that'll be good. So now I'll get rid of the drill side, swap over the head, put a boring bar head on for a little boring bar. Oh, actually, I can use a standard boring bar. That hole's fairly big, so we'll do that. So, did our machining do the job? Did we go oversize? No, we perfect. That's how you want it. Always go under. You can always take more metal out, but it's hard to put metal back once you stuff up. So that was the perfect size drill to use. Now I've set the carriage stop for the depth that the boring bar is going to go in. You don't want the boring bar hitting the bottom of the hole, otherwise you can catch, bend your boring bar, do nasty things. So this is where carriage stops are definitely the way to go. You can do it with a readout, but you can easily overshoot a readout. A carriage stop is absolutely positive. And yeah, they're easy to make. I'd recommend you get one or make one. And it's well worth having. Make life a lot easier. Okay, let's do this. I'm only using carbide because it doesn't have to be a super fine finish. If I was going for a really fine finish, I'd be using high-speed steel probably. Although the micro boring bars can do a good finish. Or on fine feed, do it dry. That way you can blow the cuttings out. Otherwise, if you do it wet, you're going to have trouble getting rid of them, and this is going to be a test fit exercise. Now you saw that I took the boring bar out while the job was still spinning. Normally you wouldn't do that because that will leave a spiral inside your job. But as we're going to use Loctite, a spiral will actually help it grip and it's not going to matter. So yeah, that's okay. But normally you would shut down the job, then bring out your boring bar, and that way if you leave it in position so you can just adjust it in further, which I'm going to do, it'll just leave one fine score mark in there. If you don't want to mark it, well, you wind it back a bit and then extract it, and then you've got a nice clean finish. But in this case, we're going to be taking several cuts, and at the end of the day, it won't matter. Okay, I'll get on with the job and I'll come back when it's finished. Okay, our job is done. That's a good snug fit. So now we'll part it off back here somewhere, work out how much grip you want. That'll be next. We'll put that lathe in the bottom gear, use a parting off blade, high speed steel with as little overhang as possible, and that will put the least amount of leverage on your tool post, okay? The problem with a lot of these parting off blade holders is they have so much overhang before you even get the blade out there. They're hopeless. So yeah, check out the world's cheapest parting off blade holder video, and you can see how to make a simple one that will work well because it doesn't have all this massive overhang. Let's do it. Okay, I've turned around the parted off section. I've got it mounted in the 3-jaw. I've got it padded with a bit of old belt sander belt, which I've shown you before how to do that. That'll stop you marking your beautiful finish. And now I'll face it off and then break the edges on both ends. It's ready to be assembled. Okay, here's what our finished article is going to look like. That's enough to grip, I think. It's not overly large. And we'll just put a bit of cheap shit thread lock I've got from the local cheapest chip store on there, and that will do the job nicely. Make sure it's all cleaned off with acetone first, and yeah, put it together. Okay, so I'll just give that a wipe off on the back side with a bit of acetone on a rag after let it set for a little while. It'll come off and then the job's all finished. Leave it overnight to harden and you're good to go. This cheap thread locker works just as good as Loctite, I've found. I think a bottle like that cost me $3 or $4. You go and buy the proper stuff, that real McCoy Loctite, and it's like 4 times as much. Yeah, good stuff. Well, there you go, mod number 2. Came up pretty good, I think. Be a lot better than that epoxy little lever they had on there, so now you can get a good purchase on it. Pull the thing down properly. Okay, that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Cheers.